Hey guys, it's George Uno with REIClub again, and we're here with another episode of First and Worst. And my guests today are some of the first people I ever met in the real estate investing world. It was 8 a.m. at a mastermind. I had to show up early, as the go-getter, and they were there too. And we were the only two people who were early, and we met each other and just hit it off right away. It was just amazing. But anyway. They are Brian and Lynette Wolff, and some of you have probably seen them on the funding tour or at the cash flow certification with Lee Arnold's group, and they do a wonderful job at that. I've attended the trainings, I've watched them, ever since we've met I've been watching them, and I think you guys are going to get a lot of fun, have a lot of fun with these guys. I know I always do. They have a ton of energy, ton of experience, and they're really good at what they do. And basically, their bread and butter in real estate is cash flow. So they love getting rental properties, building up that passive income, which we've all got to be striving for because passive income is freedom. So they're just amazing at that. They do a lot of creative finance, subject to all the things you guys are hearing about right now that have just really come into vogue with the way the market's gone. And funny enough, they started out as a security guard and a California pizza kitchen waitress. So Brian and Lynette, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start there. Take us back to the days of being a waitress and security guard. What was that like? What was your life like before all this went crazy?
Hey, I was a good waitress. I got really good tips. I had a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But let me tell you.
We went through a lot of past lives, like a lot of people do, a lot of career choices. We lived 7 years in Los Angeles, and we were working in the movie business. We're originally from Minnesota. Good Midwestern homespun folks, hard-working, Midwestern work ethic. So I really worked hard, but I always wanted to be in the movie business, so we moved out to LA, and I was writing screenplays. And so I got really good at writing scripts. I wrote over 20 movie screenplays and about a dozen TV episodes. So that was a good background for me. Later, when I got into real estate, it was very helpful. But we actually ended up moving back to Minnesota, starting to have kids, and I started looking at my life, and I was, getting on a little bit, and I said, boy, I always thought I was going to be rich. That was the one thing that gave me confidence, George. I always had confidence growing up because I was a smart kid, and I was annoying to other people, but I was kind of the teacher's pet, and I knew the answers. And so I thought, I'm going to figure out this world, and I'm going to figure out money, and I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to make $1 million by the time I'm 20 and all that. But it just didn't happen. Life doesn't always cooperate. And I didn't find the right training and the right mentor. Did we, honey? And so we found real estate, and we realized, okay, real estate is a massively lucrative career. Real estate's made more, that industry, that investing especially, has made more millionaires than any other industry. And so we knew we were always gravitating towards it, and we ended up saying, just let's do the real estate. And we met the right mentors at the right moments, and I made a pretty bold move. Lynette was working in new homes, and she was setting records and winning trophies, but she's working 50, 60 hours a week.
Yeah, I was in the rat race at that time.
So you were a realtor at that time?
Yes, right? I was a new home sales agent for Shea Homes, and I'm telling you, the kids were growing up without me. I was literally working 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week.
So we have two boys, and they're 3 years apart, and then we have a young girl after that. So at the time, they were all little kids, and Lynette's working all the weekends. That's when you make money in new homes. So all Saturday, Sunday, I'm like a single dad, and I'm saying this is not what I wanted our life to be. I wanted to have a lot of money in the bank and not be living on skinny margins, even though we were doing well. Even guys, if you look out in the world, people who are even doing well, they're mostly spending their salary. They're living according to their means, and you need some kind of a side hustle, some kind of a side gig to make a lot of money. And if you're ever going to be on that path to financial freedom and really leave the legacy that you want, you got to make some kind of side income at some point. So we realized it was real estate, and we looked at real estate in a lot of different ways, and we like fix and flips and wholesales and those type of deals. But cash flow is what got me right away, because just me being such a thinker brain, it made sense to me that, okay, I can just pile these properties up and build up passive cash flow. And there's a lot of reasons that there's a lot of different income streams to it. And there's a lot of benefits to it. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more, I think, as we go forward here.
Okay, so your first dip into real estate, you guys are like, this is the way. let's get into sales, right? You get into real estate sales, and what were you doing in real estate?
Well, and then I also was an agent. I
Yeah.
also got to be a real estate agent, and I was doing okay at that. And then I went into the mortgage business. So I actually was working for a company called AmeriQuest Mortgage, which maybe people have heard about. That was a real popular company for a while. And I got to be a manager. I was actually #1 in the entire nation at AmeriQuest. When I went to work for them, the Phoenix office had never been in the top 50 offices, and nobody had been in the top 100 loan officers. After my 4th month there, I was #1 in the whole company. Now, the reason I was so good at it was I wrote my own scripts, and I created a whole little system, and everybody else was just kind of, flying by the seat of their pants. I had all scripts and a system and steps and checklists and everything and marketing ideas, and so I created a whole system around doing that, thing, and then they gave me an office. And I said, look, I'm doing it different than everybody here at AmeriQuest. They flew me out to Sacramento. I had a big meeting with the president of the company. I said, look, I'm doing it this way, and everybody else is doing it that way, but I'm #1 in the company, so what do you want to do? And he said, I'm going to give you your own office and let you hire your own crew and teach them to do what you're doing. And so I loved that for a little while, but that's corporate America. And I do not like corporate America, and it turned into a big corporate thing. And so that's when I was desperate. That was the job I hated the most. And that was my superpower, was when I was working that job, I had to quit that job. My superpower was how much I hate that job. I had to,
That was your superpower.
I had to get out of that job situation. And so we were looking for different ways to do real estate, not working in the corporate world of real estate as an agent.
Yeah.
And Lynette was doing extremely well. I mean, she was setting all these records, making $250,000 a year, or more, selling new homes. So I knew we had to replace some big incomes. That was that was a twist. I didn't want to go down in terms of lifestyle, but I had to get our time back. And so that's when I really found the right mentor and started to learn this, cash flow business. Sometimes people call it the buy and hold business, the pretty house business. Pre-funded properties is what we like to call it. So, but we love this business, and and what people don't understand about it is they think, oh, you're being a landlord, and there's so many drags to being a landlord. The two biggest things that really stink about being a landlord are that you're living on skinny margins. When you put somebody in a house, all you get is first and last months and a little security deposit. And when they move out, you're going to spend at least that to fix it back up. And so you've got little skinny margins all the time. With the lease purchase program, when you're putting someone in and giving them a lease, but the option to purchase, they oftentimes will give you 10% down for that option to purchase. So all of a sudden you're cashing some check for maybe $20,000, $30,000 on a regular basis as part of your machine. And so that all of a sudden solves your cash flow needs with these fluxes of cash. And the other aspect of it I love is you make them responsible for the maintenance and repairs on the property. Right. Yeah, and so that's the other part of the lease purchase program we love. So you're not getting calls at 2 a.m. to come fix their toilets. It's a great deal this way. Right, honey?
Yes. Well, tell them, though, what you did to me.
Well,
Yeah, take us back to that. So
Yes.
you're in corporate America. You guys are
Yeah.
both extremely successful,
Yeah. And
but you said you hated it.
I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I could not fall back to sleep. And I knew I had to wake up in 2.5 hours, and then I had to get the kids ready, take them to the daycare, and look at that same job that I hated. So I was staring at that clock, and I said, I just have to make a change. We're not even on a path, even though we're making good money, we were not on a path to financial freedom. We were not saving money by, leaps and bounds. Yeah. We were making our bills and living a decent lifestyle.
It's almost like golden handcuffs. I mean, you guys are making so much money that you're like, well, now you're kind of stuck in that.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yes, and so how do we find something that can replace that income but give us our time and life back? And that was real estate. And when we really got it, I actually made a decision at 3 a.m. and Lynette wasn't sure about it, but I
wasn't sure.
I dropped the kids off at daycare, and I went in and I quit my job.
Okay, George, he quit his job without telling me.
Oh,
Well,
literally.
Okay.
He went in, I was so mad. I was like,
she was skeptical of the situation.
I was mad.
Yes, but I had a plan, and I knew where we were going. And she wasn't so sure. But what's the one thing that sways everybody is the first shut-up check. So getting that first check on your first deal, that's like proof for people.
So take us back there. You quit your job. Did you have you attended the training?
I had training, yes, and I had a plan. So
Okay.
I pretty much knew my direction, what I was going to do, and I had been calling and talking to sellers. And so I hadn't really shared this with Lynette because she had shared some skepticism with me about it. And so I was doing this on my own time, not around Lynette. I was calling and finding deals, and it looked like I think I was going to be able to do it. Okay, I hadn't done my first deal yet. But I felt like, I've got some action going and it's going to happen. And so I was confident, but what always gave me my confidence, and this is the difference, I think, because there's a lot of people who try real estate, and then what are the ones that make that little extra leap and actually start really making a lot of money and being successful? And in some way, shape, or form, it's confidence. Okay, for some reason, they have just that little extra bit of confidence where they think, I really can do this. And they are willing to endure the slings and arrows of misfortune. And they're willing to battle through the obstacles because they believe. It's a faith thing, it's a faith, it's confidence. And, however you want to put that. We are faith-based people, and we have a lot of faith in God and a lot of faith in our future and faith in our ability to be successful when we're on the right path. And we were just on the wrong path. And sometimes the divorce from that other path is difficult and it's painful. And so we went through but not too bad. It wasn't more than a few months before we were, doing pretty well and feeling pretty good. And Lynette quit. So about 6 months after I quit, she was, we were set up where she could actually quit.
Okay, you quit your job.
Yeah.
You're starting in real estate.
Yeah.
What does it look like? What kind of things are you doing?
Well, my main marketing method, because this is over 20 years ago, and social media wasn't what it is today, and with that we get a lot of leads now through social media and other methods, but roadside signs. That was my big method, and I knew it was something I could do. And coming from the Midwest, I'm a hard worker. I knew I could just be a hard worker, and so I would put 50 signs, or I'd have Melissa, our assistant. That was another thing that helped me. I hired an assistant right away. Now, we had a little extra money because we were working pretty good jobs, and Lynette was making good money at her job, and she didn't quit right away. So we had a little bit of room where we could hire an assistant for me. And that also gave me a lot of confidence, that extra push. You're making a commitment, And so I hired a local person. And now some people will hire virtual assistants. That really wasn't something that was possible back then. There really wasn't that available. So we hired Melissa, and she was a local, girl. She had no experience in real estate, but she was, a hard worker. She'd worked at Target, and, she seemed good, and she wanted to do the job, and so she brought good energy, and just having her show up 40 hours a week. Now, I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend 40 hours a week to everybody. Maybe they could start somebody at 20 hours a week, but we just went all in. I knew this was going to be our future, and I got to give credit to Lynette because she gave me the leeway. Even though she was skeptical, she gave me the leeway to hire Melissa. I said, honey, I just need this, and this is going to be really important, and you'll see, when it all comes together. And she had enough faith in me, and I think I showed enough faith. I was pretty, this is it, honey. I quit my job.
My version's a little bit different. I was just like, he wanted to hire Melissa. I'm like, just talk to the hand. At that point, I didn't want to hear about it. He had already quit his job, and I didn't see the shut-up checks yet.
Yeah.
So, and now he wants to hire Melissa. So I was like,
what was that like for you? I mean, you were holding down the job, right? Holding down the W-2.
Well, it was scary. It was frustrating, and I got the whole bed to myself because he was on the couch.
You got the dogs in the bed. That's it.
A little extra motivation too for you. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Well,
So how long did it take to get that first deal?
just a couple of months,
Okay.
and it was property on Ford. I still remember it, and it was. It looked, it was a really nice average, like 2,000 square feet. It was exactly 2,000 square feet, and we actually have bought that same floor model, that same exact model, since then many times. But that was the first one. It was weird because it had a shingle roof, and all the roofs, mostly out there in Arizona, have these tile roofs. So it reminded me of Minnesota. Maybe that's why I liked it so much and bought it. And that was, and it turned out to be a great deal. We made $40,000 on that deal, but I collected a non-refundable option deposit up front. And so that was one of our first deals. That wasn't actually our first deal. Our very first deal was Hilton.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's right.
yeah, and so Hilton, I did a bunch of deals like right in a clump right there because I was really motivated. I knew I had to prove to Lynette. I think I did about 8 deals in the first few months there, and most of them were these creative financing type deals.
Okay, so take us to Hilton. How'd you find it? What'd the process look like?
Well, Hilton was. I will tell you that one thing that was holding me back in the beginning that I had to get over was sort of I think a general prejudice against real estate investors. I think when people hear that word investor, when they get a call on the phone and they say, "Hi, I'm an investor calling about your house," they almost want to just hang up automatically because they're thinking lowball. They think this person's going to try to steal my house, and every penny they make, is a penny out of my pocket. So I was kind of worried about that because we are people of faith, and I wanted to feel like we were doing good in the world and helping people. And I think that's what really drew me maybe away from the wholesale and the rehabs and into the cash flow, because I feel like God brought us some of these first deals to really show us, look how you're helping people. And other people don't understand how to do these deals. There's very few people that actually understand the ins and outs of how these work. So this first one on Hilton, I actually have a visual aid here. I don't know if the camera can see it.
All right, well, just walk us through it.
Yes.
Walk us through the highlights.
But, this one, now they owed $208,000 on the mortgage. This was what they call a subject to deal. So we bought it subject to, where you basically just take over the mortgage. Now it's like assuming, and back in 1982 there was this Garn-St. Germain Federal Depository Act that says there's a due on sale clause now. So people think, oh, I can't do a house that has a mortgage on it. Wrong, you can do it subject to. And if you look even on the HUD-1 statement, there's actually a line for existing mortgages to be taken subject to by. So it's even a line on the HUD-1, everybody. So it's a real, and people do it all the time. And this is my favorite kind of deal. It's the easiest deal to do. You don't even have to create a new note and a mortgage. All you do is you basically work off a purchase and sale agreement. And so we paid what they owed on the mortgage, $208,000. And the repair costs were very small, guys. Mostly these repair costs are minimal, a couple thousand at the most. The sales price was $245,000, what we sold it for.
On a lease option, right?
Yes, on a lease purchase or lease option. Now the sellers on this deal were very motivated to sell because they had already built their new house. So they were stuck in this house trying to sell it and really wanting to move into their new house.
2 house payments.
What year was this in?
This was 2003.
Okay.
Okay, so they were really motivated, and I went over to the house and I met them at the house, and they were so happy because I brought the contract with me. And one of the best benefits about these type of deals is instant sale. So we don't have to wait around for a lender. We don't have to do an appraisal, no inspections. I mean, we're signing some paperwork today. We're going to run title, and then within about a week, you're going to be in there signing with the attorney, and this deal's done, and you're walking away. Sometimes we give them a little bit of money down. Sometimes it's a nothing down deal.
But back then,
this was a nothing down deal.
a nothing down deal, but we did this, we call it kitchen top closings, because
Right.
back then,
Well, yeah.
we met him at Bank of America. That's where he met him,
Yeah.
and they did the notary of the deed and everything.
I actually went over to the house.
There was
and we,
no lawyer, no title company.
Oh, this is the Wild Wild
Yeah.
West days, and I used to actually
Yeah.
do all my own notes and everything, and go down to the county recorder and do the whole business. So I didn't even use title companies or attorneys in the beginning. So especially for subject twos, because they're so simple. So I would just go over to the house in this situation. I mean, they were so happy when I got there. They signed everything without a hitch, and they just were eager to move out the next day. And so they were happy with an instant sale, and then they went into the attorneys and signed about a week later after the title work came in, and it was done. So they were done. Now the buyers on this property, and you can see, this is, I don't know if you can see or not, but it's a really pretty property. It looks like a little castle. It's right across the street from the community pool, and you can even see their little check. They gave us $7,000. They gave us $2,000 in cash, and so this was really. They came out all the way from Connecticut. It was 2 nurses, a married couple, and they were moving out to Arizona. They didn't have jobs yet. They had terrible credit. They had a big dog and 3 kids. and yet they moved into a gorgeous house like this. And see, I shudder to think of where they would have ended up if they hadn't met us, and they were such a sweet family, and there were 2 nurses, and our daughter's a nurse now, and my great aunt and my grandma were nurses, and so I really love nurses, so it was so neat that we could help them. And I mean, I don't even know a crummy motel that would put them up, without jobs and bad credit, and here they got to move into this gorgeous house, and it just took a little money. So now since the pandemic and everything, there's a lot of people that have gone through some rough patches with their credit, and they're good people. They're back at work. Anybody in restaurant management or a lot of other fields, the hospitality industry, they have lousy credit, but they're back at work and they got some money in the bank. So that's our lease purchase buyers. We call them lease purchase tenant buyers. They're a tenant because they're renting, but they're also a buyer because they have an option to purchase. So we do this deal, and they exercise the option. They go out and get financed. We help them a lot of times. We'll actually pay for credit repair, because that's the part of doing good. I mean, when you're enabling people who had no shot at ever owning a home without our help, and 2 years later, 3 years later, here they're moving into, or they already live there, they get to live in the house the whole time. So they had terrible credit from the get-go, yet they allowed to live in this beautiful house and then buy it and own it, within just a couple of years.
So you close on this subject too. How long did it take to get it resold on the lease option?
Right the next weekend.
Okay.
Because these are very popular because you can advertise bad credit okay.
Right.
So that's what really separates us. You don't see a lot of ads out there, own this beautiful rent-to-own home, bad credit okay, no bank qualifying.
Right.
And then now we've developed a selling style that we call the 1-hour open house. And so now, we've never had a house. I can't remember ever having a house past the first weekend that it was ready to sell, because now we have a whole marketing program that we mount and sell these properties in 1 hour on a weekend on Saturday.
That's super unique, and I've seen that. And Lynette, was that from you, from your new home sales experience?
It was actually, and you know what? Not only was I very good at new home sales, even though I was working so many hours, and I never got. My kids were growing up without me. It was really tough. So when he started,
I got to say this, Lynette, not to interrupt, but she actually set the state record when she sold 41 homes in 1 month.
That's right.
Can
At
you
Shea
believe that?
Homes.
Yeah, at Shea Homes.
Shea Homes in Arizona.
She has writer's cramp from writing contracts.
Yeah, they wrote me up in the paper. So, but so that's where I started realizing I loved showing beautiful houses and staging them and doing like an open house, because that's basically what new home sales is. You're doing like an open house. Come on in, let me show you the house. So when the reason Brian decided to do this 1 hour open house, he's the systems guy. I have to give him credit. Graduated summa cum laude. I'm sure he's going to mention that eventually.
I will not.
He's so smart. No. But he actually created the 1 hour open house system because, number one, I was very impatient. I'm not a patient person.
Right.
If I bought a house and I had to pay that house payment, a
vacant
vacant house, I was freaking out.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, I was so afraid
I'm
I'd
not
buy
paying
a house
this mortgage on a vacant house.
and like I would have to make a payment on a vacant house, and so he knew right away that he had to fix that problem.
Yeah.
And I was very good at that because of my new home sales. So it really worked out well that I had the new home sales and he had the expertise to put together the FOMO, we call it.
Yeah.
Do you know what FOMO is?
Fear of missing out.
That's right. And when you get, the most we ever got at one open house was 151 people. And that's a 1 hour open house. And that's how we advertise it. 1 hour only, treats, balloons, bring the kids, and we have games and puzzles and coloring books. And we have a big prize drawing. We usually give away a TV at about 2:45. We always do these from 2 to 3 o'clock on a Saturday. That's when we found is tested the best time. So we love doing them, and just never fails to work. What we're looking for is whoever has the most money down, pretty much. We know they all have bad credit, so we're not looking at who has the highest credit score. We're looking at, does this person have $20,000 down? Now, I will tell you, we did one where one person came in, they had $50,000 down on this property. It's at the time, it was about a $350,000 property. And then we had another lady come in, and she had $15,000 down. Okay, so you would think that we would go with the 50. Who do you think we picked? We actually picked the one with the
15,000 down.
And the reason was we had great financing on this property. We had a long-term seller financing, low payment, so we had a big monthly spread, like over $500 a month. So I don't want to give that up. So the person who had 50 grand down said, she was actually in the mortgage business. And she said, I already know my credit. I know my whole profile. I can get qualified pretty soon. So pretty soon we're going to be going for it and buying the house from you. You know, she thinks that's what I want to hear. That's the opposite of what I want to hear. I want to hear, I have terrible credit. I'm just coming out of bankruptcy. What can I do? Oh, woe is me. That's what I want to hear. So, you know, so we actually picked a lady who was a very sweet lady who had 15,000, and she moved in with her young son and her mom, actually. So it was really nice. You're always helping families and, you know, really doing good things for people.
It's awesome. So you get this deal. This is like a home run. Subject to lease option the next weekend. That's just a home run. Then what? You're still working? How many deals until you make the jump, Lynette?
I made the jump. Let's see, you did 8.
I think it was about 8 or 10 deals that we did.
8 deals. I think I had to see about 8 shut-up checks to know that this was real. And I literally went in and quit my job cold turkey. And if you know anything about Shea Homes, I was a #1 sales agent, right? #1 new home sales agent. So Buddy Satterfield, actually, he was the president. He ran Shea Homes out of California. He actually flew into Arizona to talk to me and say, hey, what's going on? Because I was like, I went in one day and I said, I quit. I'm going to go into investing. And he talked me into going to this seminar, which I was like, didn't want to go. But once I went to the seminar,
swing. It was a 4-day seminar.
That was
and
the
that was
swing.
The turning. That was a big swing for Lynette.
He talked me into going to this real estate seminar. I'm like, oh, not another one of those guys. And that's when I fell in love.
Who was it with? Who taught
Ron LeGrand.
Okay, I love Ron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And he actually does a little role-playing demonstration during the boot
During
camp.
this 4 days.
Yeah, during the 4 days, and he says, who wants to volunteer to do this role play with me? And of course, we just are up out of our seats
We're
in about
like
a half
up
a
on
second.
stage before he even said, oh, you guys, we're like up on stage.
Even before he picked us,
okay,
we're
I guess
standing
it's
next
them.
to him. He goes, okay. And he always teases us about how we're, you know, crazy couple and everything. And so we did this role play, and I realized how instructive. That was maybe the best learning part of the whole event for everybody, because they got to see. And I am pretty thinker brain, and I like a thorough, comprehensive presentation. So I was thinking of every objection I could possibly think of. Well, what about the mortgage being in my name? Well, what about this? Well,
We were role playing
what if this
that
happens?
we were the sellers,
Yeah,
and
we were the
Ron
seller.
LeGrand was trying to buy our house.
Yeah, so
that
he was
the
coming
role play
over for the deal meeting.
to sign the paperwork.
Yes, and so I was thinking of every objection any seller could ever think of. And so Ron is saying all these great objection answers, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really helping me. I wanted to be taking notes, you know, and I couldn't because I was in the middle of this role play. But that was very helpful for the future, because then we designed a product called the What to Say and What to Do system that's all video role plays. Because I realized, wow, if you can just watch the best people at this business doing it and answering the questions and saying what they say, and then it can all be laid out in scripts, that's what people need. So I realized early on, I created this What to Say and What to Do system, and then we got into the training part of real estate, and now we've been training successful students for almost 20 years at this business. And basically most of our students start with the What to Say and What to Do system, which is our core product, and they get to watch us. We play 15 different characters.
I've seen it.
This is a lot of fun. You
have to check that out.
Lynette has a big blonde wig in one, and I'm a nerd in one, and I'm a mobster in another one. So it's pretty fun, but we play it straight. You know, I mean, the one of us is the seller, one's this, the investor. Yeah. So one of us plays the investor. The student would be doing that role, and you can watch the videos, and then we even have a section in the videos that's called Your Turn, where you can just turn on the video and the character says whatever they say, and then you get to answer the objections.
Role play.
Yeah, role play with the video.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the virtual role playing. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
okay.
the role playing was very instrumental, very helpful for us. And whenever we'd bring in someone new, and we've worked with acquisitionists over the years, including our kids, we would always have them role play the scripts before they start talking to sellers.
That's smart. Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge hurdle to get over when you're starting. You're like, I gotta talk to people on the phone. Most people don't do that for their daily jobs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that's really helpful. Okay, so you guys have been teaching students for almost 2 decades now.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
But sometimes you guys, sometimes things go wrong on a deal, right?
Yes.
And I think we can all learn from those. Like, I love learning from people's horror stories, because I'm like, okay, I want to know what to look out for, right? Especially when you're just getting into things like I am. So tell us about your worst deal. Lynette, I want you to take this one, because I know you've got that analytical mind, and I know you've got this deal under
the worst deal. Okay, so first off, we had a partner, Okay, right there, you know, you got to be careful when you're partnering with people.
Yeah.
We had a partner that we thought was doing their due diligence and was, you know, really very reputable and really doing the business and doing a good job. So we figured, okay, we're going to go ahead and partner this deal. It was in Indiana. And we bought the house and we thought, wow, what a deal. It was only, what we paid what did we pay? $38,000? Oh, $33,400.
Yeah, I know
whatever.
the numbers.
So we bought the house on Washington, $33,400, and we didn't see the house. We trusted this person to look at the house. Well, it turns out that back then we didn't have all these video chats, and you know, we couldn't. So we thought that this person was legitimately understanding what they're looking at as they're walking through the house. Wrong. It was a disaster. I mean, the house was like way worse. I mean, it was not worth anywhere close to what we paid for it, the $34,000.
So we got bad advice, and we didn't, you know, follow up ourselves, but we really learned the lesson.
Yeah, because then what happened was, what we did was we cleaned out all the trash in the house, but this house was such a wreck. We figured we'd do a wholesale. We thought we could just clean out the trash and make a quick, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 grand.
Right.
Hello. And we had the partner who lived there and everything.
Yeah, and the Zestimate at the time, actually the Zestimate now is 115.
Yeah.
But I think at the time it was around 80 or something.
It was around
100. I can't remember.
It was around 80,000.
But we had room
when
in
we
there.
bought it for 34,000. So what happened was, because it was so bad, by the time we went in, we cleaned out all the junk, and we're talking like the foundation was wrecked. We're talking major, like almost a tear down. I mean, just atrocious.
Yeah.
And we're like,
then you got to
what's
think.
So then we're like,
you know, spend
do
40.
we spend all this? And we're like, no, let's just go ahead. Let's go ahead. I'll drop it all the way down to, I paid 43. I'll drop it to 39,000. I'll make 5,000.
33 for her. So then we started. We asked 46.
No, then we dropped it. Oh yeah,
46 is the first thing we asked because we
46.
thought, okay, we'll make about 12 grand or something.
That's
hopefully.
right.
And then obviously we just kept lowering it.
Then we
that's
had
the
it.
only tool you have, financing.
So
and
4
we just
months.
Want it out.
4 months later, after we had bought it, we dropped it all the way to 29,000. We're like, okay, we'll just take a loss. Forget about the wholesale fee. We're just going to take a loss here.
It gets worse.
It gets worse
A lot
because it just sat there at 29,000. We were getting no offers.
What time was that?
It was getting to be September.
September.
Of what year?
That was.
Oh, this was
it?
Just before the pandemic.
Right
This was
before the
about 4 or 5
pandemic.
years
And
ago.
so we ended up, listen to this, we ended up selling it for $12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get out.
Just to get out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here we thought, wow, we're going to make a quick 5, 10, 15, 20,000 on a wholesale deal. And we bought it for, like I said, 34,500, sold it for 12,000.
We also closed on it. I mean, if someone's doing a wholesale, and that's why wholesales are safer than we're making it sound. If you do a wholesale and you get a contract on a property, and then you turn around and you try to assign the contract and nobody's interested, you didn't come up with the money, you didn't close on that house, you didn't really risk.
But in this case, we paid cash.
Yeah, in this case, we just wrote a check.
We just wrote a check.
We were working with this person in Indiana. We were writing checks for a lot of houses.
Lots of
in
houses.
Phoenix, you can't buy a house for 30 or 40 grand.
Right.
And so, we have the money to do it, and we made profits on plenty of these properties. Yeah. So guys, don't, you asked us for our worst, and that was a really, really terrible one. But there was plenty of them that we paid, 30,000. We ended up getting 40 grand or.
Yeah.
That we profited on as well. Yeah. So I like doing deals at a distance.
We do a lot of deals at a distance, as a matter of fact. I mean, even though we live in Arizona, we buy houses everywhere. I mean, we're from Minnesota. My mom and dad had 10 kids, 5 boys, 5 girls, and we have tons of relatives in Minnesota. We bought and sold houses in Pittsburgh, Indiana, Kentucky, Minnesota. Detroit.
Detroit is our big area right now.
We love buying and selling houses.
We found a great person to work with there, a boots on the ground, and I think people can partner successfully with other people. And if you are not in an area where you can find these really good cash flowing properties, sometimes you need to expand. We have students in California. They're not going to find a $150,000 property that cash flows at $1,800 a month, which is that's such a golden number right there if you can find that. So we actually talk about the 1% 1% rule. So rent equals 1% of value. That's sort of a general rule. So if you can't find properties that meet the 1% rule in your area, you have to branch out sometimes to build a huge cash flowing portfolio.
Right.
So that's why and when you can buy a house for 50, one of the last houses we bought in Michigan was we paid 50 grand for it. The thing cash flows at $1,200 a month. We get $1,200 a month, so that's like 2% more than the 2% rule.
Yeah.
Rent equals so it's $1,200 we're getting. I think we put about 3 grand in to fix it up. And you'd think for 50 grand this is a dump, right? And it was newer. They had vinyl windows in there. It even had a second lot. So actually, you talk about the
ADUs.
ADUs, that's right. And
Yeah.
so right away we thought, wow, that would be a potentially good use for an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. So that these kind of properties exist out there, and if you live in a certain area, you think, oh, there's nothing like that. And once you start going on Zillow and looking around and seeing what's possible, or using Dealio and Sendview, some of the tech programs we use, you can find amazing deals on these properties all around the country.
So lesson learned.
Yeah.
What was the lesson?
Washington.
The main lesson is
I
if you're
would
going to
say-
buy a property, get a video walkthrough. At
Yeah.
least I'm okay buying it at a distance, but I won't buy a property now unless I see a video
Without
of
the
the
video.
inside. Yeah, and video is better than pictures. Sometimes
Whether it's
pictures,
Google Duo or Zoom or FaceTime.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's nice if you can do it live with somebody, like your boots on the ground person. Say, hey, walk over there. Here, get closer to that. Where you can actually tell them.
and
what
if
to
you're
do.
writing a check, lesson number 2, if you're writing a check, make sure that your partner is really doing their due diligence.
Yes, and we still, invest in other properties and put money in deals, but, we just are a lot more careful on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the secret to what do you guys look for in a partner?
Someone who has some experience. Actually, you know what? The number one thing I look for is, are there deals in their area? Because the reason we would ever partner up with somebody, and we have a Wolff's Deal Club where we sometimes partner up with our students. And what I'm looking for is an area where the cash flow is good. I'm looking for the 1% rule. That's why
Yeah.
we like Detroit so much right now.
Right.
And people say, oh, Detroit, isn't that kind of like a bad area, or isn't that kind of declining or whatever? If you can buy a property for 50 grand and it cash flows at $1,200 a month, and a nice family would want to live in it,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go wrong with that?
Right.
And so, as long as you are wise about the areas and have somebody who's pretty intelligent, we have a really good person there. So that's a big thing, and they have good experience. They've done deals before.
They've done a lot of deals,
Yeah,
so
and he
that's
knows
what we
what
look
he's
for in a
looking at.
partner.
Yeah, he knows what he's looking at, so he doesn't walk in the house and say this looks good, and then all these problems occur later.
Is there anything you guys do to structure the partnership to make sure that you guys are, working together rather than you guys writing all the checks and them kind of, are there any checks and balances?
We try to do KPIs, key performance indicators. So we'll make up, and this is more my department, obviously. I'm the painstaking, I'm a grinder, and so I will go through and create all the charts and all the KPIs, and this is what we need you to do, and what our expectations are. We set goals, and but a lot of this we're not like operating a business like saying, okay, we want you to produce 1 deal a month. It's more like, bring us a deal and then we'll talk. So it's not like we're hanging over them, telling them, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this. It's more like we've taught them how to do it. Now they're going out there practicing it, and when they find a good deal and they want us to partner with them, they bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we love doing deals with students when they have good deals
Yeah.
and they need the help sometimes. And the part that's tricky is the phone part. I will tell you that scares people the most. And the only solution, there's 3 ways to get over it, okay? One is education, and that's getting the best scripts and role playing. That's the best way to educate yourself to get over fear of the phone. Get the best scripts in front of you and then just role play till you're sick of the script, okay? And then you won't be afraid of using the script on the phone anymore, okay? And then the other thing is experience, education, experience, and the third thing I call it role control. Education is what we can teach you. Experience is just you doing it, talking to a bunch of sellers, using those good scripts that you've been role playing. And then the third step is role control. And for that, I'm working on a book on this, but it's all about understanding what kind of roles you're playing on the closing call. So when you're making a closing call, you're actually playing several different roles, and that's why it's kind of a challenge to be successful at this and to be good at it. The first role you're playing when you get on a closing call is, I call it business me. You have to build credibility. You have to sound like you know what you're talking about. You're following a script, and then you actually have what we call your home investor bio. And this is one of the most important parts of the call, and people aren't teaching this. And so if anybody's getting on the phone with sellers and buyers, you've got to write a little 3-line thing that tells that seller and buyer who you are. And you need to say it early in the call so they know who they're talking to. Otherwise, you could be anybody. You could be just some faceless voice on the phone. But if all of a sudden you tell them, hey, I went to college over at the University of Ohio and I've been doing this business for 5 years and we have several properties or whatever. And one of the lines that everybody uses in that is we buy and sell houses all around the area. So that's one of our key lines that we put in there. And so once you say your bio, customer starts to relax, and it's meant to sort of relax them. And saying something nice about you. I work over at the hospital. I've been a nurse over there for 10 years or a doctor or whatever. Whatever your regular job is, you're going to tell them that too, because you want to be relatable. And then all of a sudden they realize, okay, this is just a neighbor of mine. So, and that's your second role. So after you sort of build that credibility, then you move into what we call your friendly neighbor role. And that is when you're friendly and you're friendly to them and you build some rapport. You ask them about their dog that's barking. Oh, I have a dog too. Oh, how many kids do you have? Oh, that's great. And you build some kind of rapport. And when you make that connection, first you've established credibility, then you build rapport. Now it's time to move into the closing aspect where you're figuring
Deal maker me.
Yes, that's where Lynette shines. In fact, Lynette doesn't like to spend too much time in friendly
I
neighbor.
kind of go right over that friendly neighbor and go right to the deal.
Yes. Now, there's 3 different approaches that I like to teach the students, though. If you're not naturally a deal maker, like not a natural negotiator like Lynette is, she likes to get in there and, chew it up and negotiate with people. But if you're not naturally like that, you may be a good shepherd. Now, some of that's the way I approach the closing call at the deal-making phase. I say, I'm just a person who's guiding these nice folks through the process. It's a hard process to make all these decisions and sell your house. And I'm helping them through this, and I'm being nice, and I'm being helpful and providing them information when they need it, and just helping them through. And I'm following the script. Okay, that's the main thing. So I play kind of good shepherd. Now, if you run into someone who doesn't want to be shepherded, like they're another investor and you start acting like that, oh, I'm going to help you through, and they say later with you, then you can go back to deal maker, as much as you're able to do that. Now, the third one, if you don't like deal maker and you don't like
Good shepherd,
then it's time to do just good presenter. And how do you be a good presenter? You practice the script. You get the script in front of you, you practice it a bunch, you role play it a bunch. We can all be good presenters. Everybody here can, learn how to read a script on a phone. So you just say, okay, at least I'm going to be a real good presenter. And with the right scripts, you're going to have success with that. So whatever role kind of suits your own personality and, is tailored somewhat to your customer, that's the role we tell students to use in those calls.
It's really insightful, those different ways of approaching things and kind of fitting it to your personality as well. Because you guys do have 2 somewhat different
Very
personalities.
different. Let me tell you.
I'm the thinker and she's the action
I'm
brain.
action, and even though we have been married actually 38 years this July,
Yes.
we are very different. And so we work together, but we do not work in the same office. We have what you call division of labor because he would drive me crazy.
She would drive me
no,
crazy.
you would drive me crazy, honey. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So is that the secret to working with your spouse?
Yeah.
Yes, don't
He's
work
so
right in the same
meticulous and
office.
so perfectionistic, and I just want to get things done. So
Yeah.
I just knock it out. I mean, I get a to-do list, and I just bang, 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 and he's like, oh, wait a minute. Let me think about that, and let me perfect that, and let me...
Well, I do all the paperwork, and she does, if the acquisitionist isn't doing her, if they need help, I'm doing the paperwork. Lynette does a lot of the closing calls.
Yeah, I love to just get on the
Yeah,
phone,
get on
close
the
the
phone,
deal,
close
go out
them.
to the seller's house,
But if
let me
we're
get you
talking
to
to
okay the
realtors-
agreement right here, buy the house,
Yes.
sell the
But-
house. I love doing the 1-hour open houses. I mean, I like action,
Yeah,
that's what I like.
She loves
and
it.
he's like very analytical.
You need both.
Yeah, you kind of need both, and it's fun to do both. And like if we're talking to realtors, that's my area.
Yeah.
So I will spend a lot of time talking to a realtor, and everybody should be doing that now. That's one of my top pieces of advice right now, is for these cash flow deals. A year ago, the realtors were blowing you off. Why would their seller ever consider that? They just got 3 offers on the house.
Full price, all cash.
What's a price reduction?
That's right. Now we're actually going in Zillow and we're telling our students, go in on the, and look for properties that are 30 days on the market or have a price reduction. And there's a lot in there now in Zillow. And so you can start calling these realtors. What we do, I'm going to give it away, but we send an email and we tell them we're offering them full price on the house. And that normally when we buy a distressed property, we pay cash. But on a nicer house like this, we usually buy it with seller financing. And is this seller maybe open to monthly payments? And if not, is another seller open to monthly payments? Do you have any other sellers? So we're trying to develop a relationship. The chances that seller is going to want to do it, probably maybe 10% or something. Right. But the chances that they know of some seller or even somebody in their office who has a listing that hasn't sold. So that's what we're looking at now. And realtors are bringing stuff to us now. So they say, oh, I got another seller. Now here's what we tell. This is a big secret, but I'm going to share it anyway. Is when you talk to a realtor, we tell our students, tell the realtor to put you in their phone under seller financing. Before you hang up.
That's right. So
yeah, go under last name. That's how everybody's phone sorts. And tell them, now you got to be an expert at seller financing. So don't just go around telling all the sellers that. They're going to call you and expect you to know what you're talking about. So get trained on it. But that's a huge tip for us and our students that are trained up on how to do these seller financing.
Yeah, so if they don't remember you, they just type in seller financing, find
right.
you, and make the close.
Or they're just thinking, oh, didn't I meet somebody who was kind of an expert on that? Seller financing deals? Yeah, there is. Oh, yeah, in my phone. Perfect. And nobody ever clears out their phone, so.
That's true. I have contacts in there from a million years ago. So based on that, you guys are shifting kind of your approach on getting sellers and stuff in the market. Yeah. Where do you guys see the market going this year? Is there opportunity? Should we kind of be like scared right now?
Well,
What's your take?
I think everybody right now should be focused on these cash flow properties. I think they're the number one opportunity. There's 7 kinds of deals out there, and you can be doing every kind of deal, but our favorite is this deal. And the nice thing about it is you're not really subject to the permutations of the market if you have a long-term hold. So we're looking to buy properties and we're looking to get 5 or 10 years now. We don't like to do a seller finance where we're only getting 1 or 2 years. And that's important for your viewers to know this too, is that a lot of times they think, oh, if I do a seller financing deal, that seller has to agree to a 30-year term. No, they don't. They can put a balloon in there. So that's what I'm talking about when I say 5 years or 10 years. We're looking for at least 5 to 10 years. And the sellers are pretty flexible right now.
There is a lot of opportunity right now. We've been waiting a long time for this real estate cycle.
That's right.
So when you know what you're doing with the cash flow properties, now is the time to get in.
We've been doing this since the 80s, believe it or not, all the way back when we were doing it in LA. When I was working in the movie business, Lynette was in the real estate business. So we started, watching the market. We've been through a lot of cycles, and we've been really waiting for this. I thought when the pandemic hit, we would see a big shift and it would become more of a buyer's market, but the opposite happened with all the supply chain issues and everything else. So right now we finally hit it, and it's mostly been caused by the accelerating rise of interest rates. And so now they've calmed down a little bit, and you can still get a good interest rate on a property, even if you're buying with lender financing, and that's another way to buy cash flow properties. You don't have to get seller financing on everything. And sometimes it makes sense to buy with lender funding. Lee Arnold has a company, Kogo Capital, that extends these what they call rental loans to our investors, 80% LTV a lot of times, and you can work with investors. You can even do subordinate financing where you get money from the seller, we call it blended funding. So there's a lot of things you can do with lender funding now, but usually under $200,000. Because right now where the market is, where the interest rate is, anything over 200, probably you're not going to have a good cash flow with the interest rates now. So anything over 200, when we're talking to sellers now, we're shooting right for the seller financing. We're saying, would you be open to monthly payments? And if they say, no way, I need all my cash, I need retail price, it's not a deal. So next, and if you can close 1 out of 10, you're doing great. And according to our model, we want to talk to 10 sellers every week. So if you're closing 1 a week, or 1 out of 10, you're getting a lot of deals every month.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for that, guys.
Yeah.
It's always great to have you guys. And I heard you guys have a free gift, a copy of...
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is incredible. #1 book on Amazon is called The Flip Side of Flipping.
No, that's all about
and we talked to
cash flow
George,
deals.
and we decided that we're going to give you guys, where do they go?
Actually, if you go to Real Estate Winners, you can get a copy of the book, but I'm going to give you even another place to go. So Real Estate Winners is our website, and you can say hi to us there and order the book. But if you want an audio version, an audio copy, which is really great, plus a really incredible system that we include called Fast Steps to Pretty House Profits worth $197. All you do is you go to
investinggift.com
Yes.
and you put in the special access code F as in Frank, S as in Sam, F as in Frank 1011.
Yep. So again, investinggift.com, and you put in FSF. That's flip side of flipping. So FSF 1011 1011. Okay. So we would love to send you a book.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm sure my audience is going to love that. So, you guys, you can also catch the Wolffs on the funding tour on most weekends, as well as the cash flow cert from Lee Arnold's group. So, if you guys want to learn more about that, go to REIclub.com/Wolff with 2 Fs, because there's 2 of them.
That's right.
And you guys can learn more about them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Well,
much.
George, we love you. You're awesome.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks so much for being here. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. George Uno with REI Club. This has been First and Worst. Take care, guys.